In ancient times, when many existing nations were not on the stage of history, the two most powerful states of that period would fight. Today we will tell you about the Kadesh War between Hittite and Egypt. In the 13th century, the most powerful civilizations of the world at that time were the Hittites and the Egyptians in the Middle East, and they were fighting for dominance in Syria. The center of this struggle was the Kingdom of Kadesh. Kadesh was a city-state. According to the records, it was a city with 96-meter walls and very difficult to besiege and conquer. They were allied with the Hittites and had fought the Egyptians many times before. The Hittites had weak authority in the region. There was a sympathy for Egypt in the Amurru kingdom just north of Kadesh. They had previously come under Egyptian rule. The Hittites had to land troops there. A war was inevitable. Ramesses II made preparations for war. He would besiege the city of Kadesh, and maybe the siege would last for months, and war with the Hittites was inevitable. He set out with the army of Ramesses II in 1274 BC. The Egyptian forces were advancing in 4 units. Each of these units had 5,000 infantry and 500 chariots. In total, they had an army of 22,000 men. The Hittite king Muwatalli II had half as much infantry as the Egyptians, but had more chariots, and the battle was larger and heavier than the Egyptian chariots. He had an army of 15,000 men, with 10,000 infantry and 5,000 chariots in total. Ramesses II set out with 4 troops named Ammon, Ra, Ta, and Set. He was in the vanguard of Ammon. The troops of Ra and Ta followed him at half-day intervals. On the other hand, the Set unit was advancing in parallel from behind the Lebanese mountains to attack from the rear in a war that might occur around Kadesh. The Egyptians traveled for 40 days, and when they approached the city of Kadesh, the Hittite army was still not there. 11 kilometers from Kadesh, 2 natives came to the Egyptian army and said that they saw the Hittite army. According to the natives, the Hittites were away for days, their numbers were few, and they were afraid to fight. This was the information the Egyptian army needed. Ramesses believed this information and encamped with the troops of Ammon to the southwest of Kadesh. But those 2 natives were agents of Muwatalli. Muwatalli expected Egypt to give a deficit by providing it with false intelligence. In fact, he had reached Kadesh before Ramesses and set up camp to the northwest. This is the first intelligence attack in history. Muwatalli was watching the Egyptians with his reconnaissance teams, but 2 Hittite reconnaissance soldiers were captured by the Egyptians. When they were tortured, they revealed the location of the Hittite army. Now Ramesses knew where the Hittites were. While this was happening, the Ra troops were advancing towards the Ammon contingent. Muwatalli noticed this and sent a very fast-moving detachment of 4,000 chariots against the Ra unit. Hittite chariots literally trampled over the Ra unit. The Ra troop was almost completely slain. The Egyptians, mostly chariots, remaining from the Ra unit, began to flee towards Ammon. The Hittites, who did not take much casualties, were following them. Ramesses II saw at that moment his own chariots and thousands of Hittite chariots following them behind them. He got surprised. The Hittites shouldn't have been on this side. The troops of Ammon immediately took a defensive position, but they were not waiting for an attack. The first pitched battle in history began at that moment. Muwatalli immediately attacked Ammon with his entire army, actually planning a war with support from the walls of Kadesh, but he could not lose his chariots and the Egyptians were few in number. Muwatalli attacked with all his might to kill Ramesses. Ramesses had to hold out until the troops of Ta and Set arrived. Although the troops of Ammon lost many soldiers, the central unit was the unit with the best warriors, they defended well. They protected their king for hours and Ramses survived. When the troops of Set and Ta reached the region, they did not hesitate to join the battle. They attacked the Hittite forces with all their might. This time Muwatalli was surprised. There was a big pitched battle. They suffered heavy losses in two armies, and their numbers were greatly reduced on both sides. It was very dangerous for these two leaders. Their armies had dwindled below numbers capable of maintaining their authority in their own territory. They had to retreat. And at that moment both leaders ordered a retreat. The armies separated from each other and retreated. Great losses had been incurred. The war ended in a draw. There was no clear winner. The two leaders returned to their capitals and declared that they had won the war. According to Egyptian religious tradition, the king was also a god. The two leaders returned to their capitals and declared that they had won the war. According to Egyptian religious tradition, the king was also a god, with no destiny other than winning a war. So much so that in the hieroglyphs depicting Ramses slaughtering the Hittites, it was written in the mouth of Ramses,
I killed them. I killed them wherever they came across. And one of them called out to the other, this cannot be a man, he must be a god. What he did is not something a human can do. No one before, only one alone, he had not defeated hundreds of thousands without his infantry and chariots.
On the tablets of the Hittites, it was written that they won the war. And in 2013, the diary of a Hittite soldier was found during an excavation work in Sivas, Turkey. This is the basis of our data on daily warfare. After the war, a peace treaty was made between the Hittites and the Egyptians. This agreement is the first peace treaty in history. The agreement included alliance for an invasion from Assyrian civilization as it was weakened in two armies. States promised to respect each other's borders. One of the important features of the agreement for humanity is that the Egyptian ruler signed the agreement only himself, while the Hittites signed it together with the king and queen. The name and seal of the Hittite queen Pujahipa on the Kadesh agreement makes us think that the Hittites could have a say in the administration and the spouses of the kings. See you in the next videos.